Hola, ¿qué tal? Soy David Martos. Estamos en la edición número 69 de Seminci en Valladolid, en este teatro Calderón que nos acoge toda la semana. Y nos acompaña el director Yeo Siew Hua, el director de Stranger Eyes, que está aquí en Seminci. Estuvo ya en Venecia y nos acompaña en este Festival de Valladolid. Vamos a hacer la entrevista en inglés. We're going to switch into English to say hello to Yeo Siew Hua. Thank you very much.
Hi, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. First of all, how do you feel presenting your film in these festivals in autumn? I mean, first Venice, then here in Valladolid. How do you see the life of your film?
No, it's very exciting because not just that the life of this film, but my previous film was also here, Land Imagine. This was 5 or 6 years ago, before the pandemic, and so coming back here feels like it's nice. It's like coming back, like there's an audience here who might have seen my work before, and so it's very nice to come back and present the film here again, and I'm very excited to meet the public. Yeah.
It's like building up a relationship with a festival, right?
No,
Like,
absolutely, yes.
yeah, yeah. So, Stranger Eyes takes us to Singapore, to a society in which cameras and surveillance are really present in the characters' lives. I mean, they are present in everyone's life. It's everywhere. It's here now, recording us, but it's everywhere in every shop, in every house. I mean, what was the central idea that led you to writing and directing this film?
As you put it, in my environment, this is how we live now, right? We are being watched, more than ever before. Whether is it the state, but also big corporates and each other, right? Through social media. So this idea of being watched is really the central idea, and it came from a very lived experience. At the same time, in Singapore, it's very tiny, and so we live in very dense apartment blocks,
Hmm.
and so you open your window and you see your neighbor. Your neighbor look at you, right? This kind of watching is a daily ritual, and meanwhile, you know that the state is also watching you through surveillance camera, watching you, watching other people. So this kind of chain of gazes really is like the starting point in what I would call a very unprecedented moment because of how intensely we are watching others, but
Hmm.
also being watched by everyone else. Yeah.
Okay. Let's say a little bit about the plot because in the film we find a couple, a young couple. They are parents to a baby girl, and they receive a DVD in their home. When they play the DVD, they see themselves. They've been recorded with the baby girl, who is missing in a certain point of the film. And then we have this neighbor in the opposite building who is watching them, and there's like clear reference Rear Window by Alfred Hitchcock. Was that the reference to you, or you've been told that when critics and other people saw the film?
I think with Rear Windows, that was for me right from the start. It's like it's not a reference to the story, but
Hmm.
for me, it's a reference to what I was experiencing in my life. I was literally looking out my windows and just looking at all the other neighbors from these little windows, like little cinema screens. And so this idea came into the movie in a very direct way. It's almost like a rear window shot in the movie. And then when I was pitching this movie, many other people tell me, "Hey, it reminds me of this film, and
Hmm.
have you seen
Haneke too. I mean,
Haneke,
yeah.
Cache, you know?" At that point, actually, I haven't seen it.
Okay.
I said yes, yes, I have, but
Of course.
later on I saw it, yeah, and then I realized that actually films about surveillance and voyeurism, it existed way, it's part of cinema history,
Yeah,
right?
decades
Like
ago. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Hollywood, all golden age, all the way to now. Very cinema is very fixated with the voyeur, with the, you know, why? Because maybe secretly we all have a little bit of
A voyeur
voyeur
inside.
inside us, right? Yeah, and so yeah, for me it's just an idea that this movie is a continuation of that conversation, you know, that cinema has already been having, you know, and maybe it's just my contribution in what I call this current moment, a very unprecedented moment where we are so much being watched by everyone else, you
And
know,
by ourselves.
and by ourselves, right? And we know, and that's the thing, we know that we are being watched by everyone else. You know, it's not like in a surveillance movie where you don't know anymore, like you're being seen. But we now live in a state that we coexist with surveillance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's put together some of the ideas that are floating around in this interview. This surveillance idea, everyone is being watched all the time. The populated area in which you base the film, many people living in a really small place. What would you say this surveillance state does to society? How does society change when it is constantly taped and recorded and evaluated, I would say?
That's a big question, you know. It's like it's a question why I made this film, you know, really to investigate this. But that's the thing, we don't know, because it's so unprecedented in what is happening to us now. We're walking blindly for a movie about watching. We're really walking blindly into this moment. We don't know what it's doing to us as a human race, you know, as a civilization, because we have never experienced this before. And what I would say is that, you know, I feel actually where the inspiration comes from is actually from quantum physics.
Oh.
Yeah, that there is, you know, a photon that actually it moves in a wave of potential. I don't know if you've heard of this Michelson-Morley experiment. This photon moves in a wave of statistical potential. You don't know where it's going
Well, it really is. Yeah.
until you start looking at it. And in quantum physics, there's this idea of the observer, and the observer effect. When you look at the photon, it starts to move in a straight line. Well, when you're not looking at it, it is in a statistic of waves. And I sincerely believe that is what, you know, how it reflects with humans. You know, we have so much human potential, waves of human potential, but if we know that we are being watched, we start moving in a straight line.
That's really interesting.
And you know, that's also you know, interesting and scary, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your career as a filmmaker. This is your third feature film, I think. And you've had this presence in the festivals circuit. Would you say this film has been easier to finance, to build up because of the relative success of your two previous films, or is it always difficult to do a film?
I would be lying to say that this is as difficult as the one before. I feel like although maybe here's a story, the Stranger Eyes, this film is actually first initiated even before my previous film.
Oh.
So I started having this film and I started developing and pitching for it 10 years ago. And it was a long time. And at that time, we didn't manage to get the financing to realize the film. And maybe it is the topic, the sensitivity of the topic, who knows, you know. But basically, we didn't manage to get the financing, and we had to shelve the project. And it is only until I made Alain Imagine, my previous film, and had relatively, you know, a success for that film. And I think, yeah, after that, you know, it became possible. It became more possible to take this film from the shelf and to revive it again, and that was what happened. And but it still wasn't easy. And at that time there was a pandemic. People were very unsure, you know, of the movie landscape, of like whether a cinema audience coming back to the theaters, right? Eventually, luckily, we made it happen. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what
Yeah,
now?
yeah.
What for your fourth project? Do you have ideas?
Many things floating around, but nothing that I have said. Okay, this is what I'm gonna do next. So, I think I'm gonna save that for when I have a more certainty. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But we're also constantly developing other things. Not just the films, but also some series and some
Mm.
stuff. So yeah,
When did
things
you
in the
decide
works.
that you wanted to become a director? Were you a child? Were you a young man? You're young now. I mean, you're still very young, but when did you decide that?
Um, it's an interesting question. I mean, I went to film school,
Mm.
and this is not for the undergrad level. So this is very young, when I was 17. I was in film school, and actually, even at that time, I wasn't sure if I was going to be a filmmaker. But I don't believe in this eureka moment. I think it's always
Revelation, yeah.
I think it's always a lie when people say that, like, I was born to be a filmmaker, or something happened and I just am one. I'm just a filmmaker. I, for me, it's a process. It's like I make something, and it's important for me that I get a feedback from what I make, and I get an acknowledgement that says, hey, you know what, this is something you can do. This is something that you have some small knack or
Hmm.
talent to do, and then you develop this, and you develop and you develop and you develop this, and I wasn't trained as a director right from the start anyways. I was trained as a cinematographer, and then later on as an editor, and later, bit by bit, I try new things, and all of a sudden I'm here. It's like, yeah, just before making this movie, someone was still asking me, when are you gonna get a real job,
To earn some
yeah,
money.
yeah, are you done with your hobby yet,
Yeah.
when are you gonna get a real job?
It's really curious because you were trained to be DOP and an editor, but how do you feel as an actor's director? What kind of an actor's director would you say you are? Because some directors, they are always like giving notes to actors during the shooting. Others, they let them do, like they know what to do. Some of them, they rehearse a lot. Others, they don't. What kind of an actor's director are you?
The honest fact is I don't know how I am in relation to other directors, because I don't go to
Solo
their
sets?
set to how you doing this, but I think I've been told by my actors that I do give them a lot of free space.
Okay.
It is very important for me not to fix them in a certain frame, or to say, oh, you cannot walk from here to here because you're gonna leave the frame. I give my actors a lot of free space to improvise and to play. Actually, Wu Jianhe, the actor in this film, playing the younger guy, he told me one day after shooting that, like, oh, you're a very strange director. You're a very strange director. Maybe he was also a bit drunk. He was telling me that, like, you refuse to tell me what you want, because if you tell me what you want, I am very good. I can do it. You tell me, walk there and be sad or whatever. No, like, I can do it, but you refuse to tell me what you want. And I realized it's true. It's true. I don't tell my actors exactly what I want them to do. I want them to 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 do it, and to feel that something that they have done on their own, and I just guide them. I help them find the rhythm to what they can bring to the movie,
Hmm.
instead of me saying, no, 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 you have to take 5 steps to get there. Yeah, I don't believe in that. I believe that whenever I force myself onto my actors, it will feel very false.
Mm.
Yeah.
Maybe if you have a very free set for actors, then you have to end up directing the film in the editing room.
Yeah. I think as an editor myself previously, I do edit, I do shoot very much in mind with the editing, but yeah, but I give them a lot of free space, and then later on I try to understand the film from a much more macro point of view
Mm.
of how to create that pacing for them in the editing room.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's been a very interesting conversation with the director of Stranger Eyes. I want to pronounce your name correctly. Yeo Siew Hua,
Yeah, exactly.
more or less. Thank you so much for being with us today. Congratulations on your film.
Thank you.
And
thank
good
you,
luck
thank
with the
you.
rest of the way,
Thank you so much.
which is going to be very long. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gracias a todos y a todas por vernos. Estamos en el set de Kinótico en el Festival de Valladolid, en Seminci, edición 69. Seguimos en Kinótico, primera con K y segunda con C. Hasta ahora.